guys so much for joining us here for a very exciting episode with exciting news. Now, you guys all know our beautiful, which way am I pointing? This way. Our beautiful resident, Pam with Perfectly Holistic. Know her and love her, but you might not know these
beautiful
below
humans right
us.
here that mean the world for us cat parents everywhere. Zach and Jen with Viva Raw. Thank you guys so much. For doing what you're doing and for being with us here today.
Yes.
So excited.
Yes.
Super excited. You guys have some super exciting news that just came out on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that you guys have been overwhelmed with like excitement and questions and busy and going live everywhere all the time. But first,
let's build some suspense. First, I want to ask Pam. Pam, how excited were you when you heard the announcement that not everyone may know yet?
I was very excited.
Right?
I was very excited. You know how hard it is to find really good raw cat food, like raw diets that are complete, not that you have to add a premix to or whatever. Yeah. So that is huge. That is huge.
Yep.
And so I think you just spoiled the announcement.
It was hard. I was wondering how you were gonna like answer it.
I know. I was just trying to build a suspense for someone who stumbles on this. Okay, Jen and Zach, could you guys, for anyone in our community that does not already know who you guys are and the beautiful work that you're doing, could you share a little bit about who you are and your story that brings you here to us today?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So thank you for the wonderful, kind introduction. But yeah, I'm Jennifer. This is Zach, and we run Viva Raw, which is a raw pet food company. So I think that the big news, I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it officially for everyone, is that we actually just came out with a line of complete and balanced cat recipes this past Monday. It's been in the works for almost a year, and it's been such a crazy journey to get to where we are today. So just a little bit of background about how we started is we started around the beginning of 2021, actually. And the reason we got into the raw pet food, first of all, just look at us. we don't come from the pet food industry, right? But where it all started was we had our own dog, and we wanted to, get her on the best diet possible. She's basically our child. So we were home making meals for her, and it kind of got to a point where we were like, oh yeah, let's go out and buy stuff. It was too time consuming for us to do it at home, but we just really didn't find anything we liked. If things were gray and mushy, we felt like we didn't like the ingredients and things like that. So we were like, all right, let's try this out and see what people think. So
naive idea, but
yeah, it was very naive, and we can get into more of all the dumb mistakes we've made. But we started just basically making pre-model raw blends, 80-10-10, and we still have those. They're called our pure recipes now, which is good for people who want to kind of have a little more tailored, what they feed a little bit more, supplement themselves. And then almost a year after that, we came out with our complete and balanced line for dogs. And then basically really right after we came out with our dog recipes, we started working on our cat recipes. And let me tell you, it was such a journey, right? You're like, how do you work on a formulation for a year? But there's a lot that goes into it, right? Starting with I guess first off, formulating for cats is definitely harder than formulating for dogs in terms of the nutrition requirements. And there was a lot of consideration and thought we put into which types of ingredients we wanted to use for cats and which ones we didn't, just because we wanted to avoid a lot of veggies and certain supplements that would affect how the food would taste or smell. So we kind of trialed and errored. We did a lot of testing for different ingredients that we wanted to use, and then ultimately came up with our formulation. And then even after that, it was oh, now we have all the things written down, but it's how do we go about finding the suppliers for all these things, sourcing them, stuff had to come all over the place to actually have the recipe come together. So that's why we're super, super excited.
I have a question. Who were your test cats?
Who are our test cats?
The taste tester cats. Yeah.
So a lot of our friends, I'd say. And to be honest, even you guys were some of our first sort of taste testers. As we start to send out to a lot of our different partners. A lot of it has been sort of small scale, but I think sending out to, all of you, sort of helped sort of affirm that, you know, this was actually a recipe that everyone really, really loved.
Yeah. So taste is, I mean, it's a good question because with cats are almost like smarter about their food than dogs are. So making sure
it's very, yeah, it's a very good evolutionary trait.
Yeah. Our dogs,
almost, they are.
Yeah.
they very
Yeah.
much are. So that was like a big thing for us in thinking about like what ingredients we wanted to use and didn't. Like in our dog recipe, if you notice, we have things like ground ginger and like some various veggies and things like that. But in our cat recipe, we kept it very like, it's a much more meat-based. It's like 97% meat-based ingredients. And then all the supplements, we really looked for ones that are essentially like palatable, right? Like something that would fit like cat's natural palates and inclinations. So I mean, we heard all of your whole crew liked it, so it's a good sign.
I'm not gonna lie, I was shocked. I was very shocked because our cats are very. Now we have like a few of our cats. One specifically is a purist, so he will only eat raw. He won't eat anything with a can, anything that is like anything that's processed or cooked. He will not eat. So I had hopes for him, but they're also just very picky about the specific texture. Yeah. And I liked that this texture was very similar to the texture that they are used to. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, let's see. We have tried many great foods out there. There are beautiful, wonderful foods out there that are really healthy and we can recommend to people to feed their cats, but our cats won't touch it. And I was worried that this was going to be, you know, remember back in the day when Answers like literally was like, if you ask me, it's probably the best food on the market when Answers was Answers. Yeah. The best food on the market, but you can't get your cat to eat it.
And that was so true.
Yeah.
I was watching y'all's live the other night. We were able to catch most of it. And I love that you brought up the palatability because I think that that's what really keeps us cat people from trying new things. It's like, especially in multi-cat households, if you find something that everybody likes, you know, and we do rotations of proteins and even putting in different brands to make sure that we're, you know, but when you find something that everyone likes, it's like, I don't want to mess with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was this weekend and we were like, okay, let's defrost it and or thaw it out. And then let's try it and let's just grab our phones and see and watch. And, you know, good or bad, we'll let you know. We're very honest. And they all of them. I was like, Adrian, every one of them are eating.
I witnessed it myself. It was impressive.
It was quite impressive.
We're so glad to hear it.
Rabbit. Now, we haven't tried the chicken yet. I know that Pam, your baby's tried the chicken, right? And
yeah. Okay. So Aylin is in this raw food strike right now. She dabbles. So she is like hit or miss sometimes. She ate a few bites that first day, but then the second day she was like, I don't want it today. But Gunner is eating it and I'm super excited. But I've only tried the chicken. So I have the rabbit defrosting to see how you know, how they do on the rabbits.
Fingers
crossed. Yes, you know, and I'm trying not to put like their typical supplements in it because I want them to just have the food experience.
Right.
For now, as we try, you know, something new and they're just not like turned away by, oh, you put that dang supplement in there again, you know? So we're trying to just be really pure about it.
Right.
So, but you know, Aylin is Aylin. She's very opinionated.
She is. But I bet she's going to really love the rabbit.
I really hope so. You know, I'm really trying. And I have, you know, with cats, we have to be creative sometimes. Mm-hmm. So adding the toppers that they like, you know, when you're introducing something, adding something that you know they like with it to introduce that taste. So I'm just having to be very creative with her.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's a bunny killer, so I'm sure she'll.
I know. Don't say that too loud because it just hurts my heart.
I know.
Yeah, she.
Questions because you guys have been making the pure recipe. I'm moving right along. Aylin, I love you, sweet girl. I know. Can you hear Zorro
He's
singing in the background?
He's singing.
So you guys have had the pure recipe for cats for a while,
Yep.
and it's also
And
a
our cats.
palatable recipe, but it's not fully balanced, right? Which is, it gives us our own, like you had mentioned earlier, our own freedom to kind of like supplement how we want or do that sort of thing to kind of balance it out, or use it like we did in an already balanced diet or food, just to give them more diversity. Could you guys speak a little bit to this fact about the using synthetic blends of the vitamins and all that kind of thing, and how I love that it took you guys so long. We've all been on the edge of our seat
For a while.
for a long time.
Since we met.
Yeah, since we met you. And it took this long though to figure out the sourcing. Tell us a little bit why you didn't want to go with synthetics, and how you came about using the ingredients that you have found to balance this new recipe.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say that a lot of the focus around like the whole food supplementation approach that we took is because of the way that you think about like what it means to use whole foods as sort of like healing for your body and like nutrition for your body, as opposed to something like a lab-based synthetic supplement, right? Like if you are using a synthetic supplement, let's say, for example, like you're using a calcium supplement, it is just pure calcium. It's very one-dimensional. And again, there is a time and a place for supplements like this. But what it ends up doing is it's very, very targeted, supplies just that and only that. But there's a lot of complexity that comes with whole foods, right? It's a whole spectrum of things. So when we're adding things like egg yolk powder or blue mussels, it comes with much more than just that one nutrient that we're providing. So that sort of full spectrum sort of nutrition belief is what we wanted to put into our cat recipes and offer something that was more like what they would sort of naturally be sort of, just like evolutionarily, it's what sort of like the cats came from in terms of what they used to eat. So it just didn't make sense to want to go through a direction of, we do use, I think it's 2 nutrients specifically that are taurine and manganese. And those are very, very intentionally chosen, partially because taurine is notorious as, one of those nutrients that cats absolutely need and is not something that they can synthesize by themselves. But we chose that in a way that would be in its purest, most natural chemical form as well as manganese. It's something that we sort of toyed around with a lot, and we could have done with manganese and some other forms. And we are using some manganese from blue mussels as well. But we didn't want to, put in some spices or some herbs that were, not necessarily biological appropriate either. So we wanted to maintain the most pure form of the recipe while also being as nutritionally dense as possible.
Nice.
How do you keep it straight though? I mean, like the complexity, you guys were talking on the live about how nutritionally complex the nutritional profile really is for cats. And you guys have a dog. This is why I have so much love for you too. Like that's where, you really took that inspiration of wanting the best for your own baby and deciding to go down this huge journey, but then recognizing that you cannot leave cats behind. Thank you.
Yes, we thank you very much.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's so much more complexity. Did you know that going in, or has
not to the degree?
No. Well, I mean, it was never a question of whether or not we would do cat. We always knew we would do it. It's just kind of a matter of when. And I think I am glad that, it's like dogs are honest. After having done both, dogs honestly are a little easier to formulate for. And so I'm glad we started there and learned as much as we did through that process. And then we were ready for the more slightly more challenging task of formulating for cats.
I think the trickiest part is if you're new to sort of understanding nutrient profiles for cats and dogs, the simplest way that I distill it is that a lot of the time cats require more of nutrients, right? More nutrients than dogs do. So one, that's already more difficult to deal with. But at the same time, you're very limited with what you can add into the feline diet as opposed to the canine diet. So it's they need more, but you also are very limited in sort of thinking about what sources you should be using to add in those.
Yeah, so that's actually a good point about cats needing more in general, which is kind of what also made us formulating with whole foods that task also more difficult. Because a lot of cat recipes out there, like people will kind of add like a synthetic vitamin blend, and it's really easy to hit all the numbers you need to hit there. Since those things come pretty concentrated. But like with whole foods, as you can imagine, the natural concentration of these vitamins and minerals are going to be a little lower. So it's just figuring out then it becomes harder of we have to actually test these things, because those numbers aren't published. They're not set to a certain standard all the time. So there was that added challenge of actually, first off, we had a smaller pool, but then it's also within that smaller pool, what will actually help us meet the numbers that we need.
Yeah, different suppliers too have different levels as well. I think that's one huge thing that we sort of realized from our journey through the past years. Just for example, you can source blue mussels from one supplier A or supplier B or supplier C, but they can have completely different levels, just depending on how those mussels are sort of raised, what part of the ocean they're from. So these nuances really, really do matter, and it's really important to do it right, I think. But it's difficult, and that's also why it's taken so long. So we appreciate you guys being very patient.
I appreciate you guys doing it right.
Yeah.
I think that's to have a level of trust in a brand is a big deal. And watching your journey has been so exciting, because it has been Sora will not stop.
He's singing.
He is.
Can you hear him?
Can you?
Yeah, it's faintly. Yeah.
He's singing.
But it's so exciting to watch your journey. I love your transparency. I love, you guys share so much with your audience. You guys have got to, if you don't already, follow Viva Raw.
Yes.
You guys put out really great content, really great information.
Thanks. We try.
And it's
relatable and absorbable.
Yeah.
And, and it's
like
fun
the nutrients
to watch
in your cat food.
Yeah. That video where you were actually just showing the different supplements or nutrients that you were adding into the food. That was fascinating to me to see that, because not a lot of people, companies don't usually show that, right? Pet food companies don't usually show and aren't this transparent as to where and what they're putting into the food. So it's really good for us as cat parents to be able to have a food, one, that our cats will eat, and two, that exceeds balanced guidelines. That is absolutely super healthy for them. And then also that is what I love, that you guys just deliver straight to your house.
Talk a little bit about this, because I think
about the different options they have as far as protein. So you guys have 5 different protein options, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. It's chicken, turkey, beef, duck, and rabbit. And we had them in all of our pure recipe forms. So the pre-model raw forms, we have those 5 proteins, and we wanted to make sure we offered all of them as well for in the cat recipes. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the times people tend to launch cat recipes in just a couple of proteins. So we wanted to make sure we offered them in many different varieties, so that because protein variety is very, very important. I mean,
I agree.
It's completely different nutritionally from, while all of them are considered complete and balanced, there's still merits to feeding one or another, right? So
Pam, can I have you jump in on that? Because I know that every time that we've worked with you a lot, and a lot of times you will suggest different proteins. So what do you think about the variety, and what do you kind of see as why you suggest different proteins for different situations?
That's a great question. And I applaud you guys for giving the variety. Number one, because cats get bored eating the same food every day, just like we would. But you have different health conditions, and you have different Chinese elements in pets, so their bodies may be too cooling and they need the warmer proteins, or vice versa. So it's great to have the warming options. It's great to have the cooling options. It's great to have the neutral options, so that we can help balance these, potential health conditions that they might be struggling with, or have dietary, sensitivities and things like that. And they can't eat chicken, because everybody has a chicken recipe. Mm-hmm. Not everybody has a duck recipe. Not everybody has a rabbit recipe. So those are really good cooling options. Some places do more turkey or beef, but it's so nice to be able to rotate, because like you were saying, every protein has a different nutritional profile. So by changing up their proteins in a rotation, you're giving their little microbiome different you're feeding the microbes in their gut differently, and you're building a bigger microbiome profile as well, which is super healthy if you want to look at overall benefits of, health,
Right.
which I do all the time.
Yeah. And longevity of life, right? Like
Yeah.
microbiome is so important. So to have those options is fabulous, especially
And so
for
knowing that each protein that you guys selected to put in your options, every protein is different, every nutrient profile is different, so you therefore had to tweak each recipe accordingly. So it is not easy math. It's not easy science.
No.
Hats off to you, because I pretty much failed chemistry. I can't. I don't have that mind, to go in and figure out all the little nitty gritty, but that's what you guys had to do.
Yeah. And that is a really hard thing. Before we started feeding raw, we were looking at the cost and we were like, I don't think we can afford this, but we have to start doing it. So we spent like literally a year, and I read books and I went online and I did research, and I was like, we're going to make it ourselves. We're going to make it at home. We can absolutely do this. It's going to be the best. And I could never get that math right. And I am actually pretty good at math, but I was pretty good at chemistry, but I could not.
No.
Talk to you a little bit. I mean, I think that you guys, the exponential amount of value, for lack of a better word, for our cats nutritionally, being that, like you said, Zach, these are complete and balanced recipes for chicken, for duck, for rabbit, right? Yet every protein has their own nutritional profile. And I think that was a big eye-opener. We thought, well, we can just use a packet of synthetic stuff, balance those out. So walk us through a little bit about what, for those of us that may not understand how that doesn't actually work, and what it actually goes into making a protein complete and balanced.
Yeah. So I like completers and things like that are pretty popular on the market because they're easy, right? And I guess there's kind of a distinction between there's this in US, like the guidelines that we follow are established by AFCO, and if you kind of really look at the numbers, they have some minimums and a few maximums, but there's a pretty wide range of where your numbers can end up. So with a lot of these like all-in-one sort of mixes, it's like you can technically, meet the marks, but you're probably not, at optimum levels. So that's kind of the difference there, right? If you just go by like check, you'll get all the green boxes. But then if you really actually go a level deeper and see like, oh, is this actually at an optimum level or is it kind of high? Like you're really not going to have that like fine grained control over it.
So then what do you guys do? Do you just say like, okay, like we know this and this, this much. And so we put it together and then we like send it to a lab and test it? Or you guys have like a testing kit to where you can like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know we know why we're adding certain ingredients. And after that, we obviously know, how much of those nutrients each, gram or whatever is providing, right? And then basically mix it based on that prior to adding into the recipes, right? So there is that level of complexity. But yeah, as Jennifer said, I think what's also interesting to know about some of these completers is, and I think what you have to be a little bit careful about is often they're going to exceed what you need. So you just have to be a little bit more careful, because I think just generally speaking, completers would rather exceed than obviously, fall short of what you're looking for. So in some cases, if there are certain nutrients that are added, you have to just be a little bit more careful. For example, I think a great nutrient to discuss is like copper. One of the really common things is if you're using, for example, like a beef recipe or a red meat recipe, the liver is known to be very, very concentrated in copper. Right. But oftentimes, if you're adding like a completer as well to a food that already has like a ruminant liver in it, you could actually be exceeding what is considered as healthy for copper limits. And unfortunately, there's still some sort of back and forth about AFCO having maximums on that. It's known that like copper is not great to overdose on by any means, but still there's no maximum. So of course, completing it does not necessarily mean that it's always great.
Yeah.
And I do think, Pam, piggyback on top of this, because I feel like you have something important to say, but I do feel like let's not freak out. You know, we have been in a budget where it's like, we're going to make our own stuff and we're going to use this completer. I think we need to look at it like every meal doesn't need to be perfectly balanced, but over time, and I think that's what us cat people fall into, over time, we just stick with one thing. So while it might be falling within the wide margins of acceptability, maybe a little high here or there, if we stay with that over the lifetime or weeks, months, years of our cat's life, then we're looking at building up levels of or creating deficiencies. So it isn't just about one meal. Oh my God, I got to throw this out. You know, I can't use a completer, but it is about recognizing that, you know, foods like Viva Raw balance each protein profile
they did
in a
that
way
work for you.
Yeah, that I think is the real value. And Pam, go ahead, piggyback. I feel like I felt you wanting to say something about the copper building up of excess.
Well, no, I was just remembering, I hear Dr. Karen Becker talk about copper storage disease, and I know it's probably more of a thing in dogs, but you're absolutely correct, because when you're using actual whole organ meat, you know, for not only their protein, but also all the other minerals or vitamins that they can provide, you don't want to keep adding multiple sources of extra on top of that, because then it just, like you said, it can reach that maximum or be above, and then long term you could really cause problems. So
Absolutely.
And because we're not scientists and we don't work in that field, and I don't want to get out the calculator every day and have to calculate, because that would just drive me crazy. I am so grateful that you've already done that work for us. So I thank you, because I can't do it.
And like,
I have to do that, you know?
Yeah. And again, like completers by any means, that they are a great option, you know, for a lot of people. I think one of the most important things we can recommend is just reach out to the company that you're getting your completer from and just ask for the nutritional analysis, right? That's a great place to start. And that can be a great way to sort of just compare against what you, and then again, like you can look at USDA data of like the cuts that you're feeding. I know this is getting a little technical, but you know, of course, if you're invested in making sure that your pet's getting the best, it is advisable to look at that long-term at least.
And I think correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong, but I think at least in one meal completer company that I've used in the past, they actually specify use with this meat or this meat. So I think they've already kind of customized their completer to work to be balanced for specific proteins, but not all proteins.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are completers like that for sure.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
a good
Cool. I was actually just thinking maybe one day we should do that. Never mind.
I'm gonna go with you guys.
Okay, so Cheryl has a question about the bone. She said, "Do you have any cat foods where the bones are not ground into it to keep phosphorus levels lower for senior kitties, especially with kidney disease? Have you considered or?"
Yeah, so the answer is like we don't have a boneless recipe as of now, but we do hear quite a lot from people, you know, who are working with like kidney issues and things like that. So I would say it's probably not out of the question for us to do more of like a specialized diet for this sort of thing in the future. But
this does take a little bit more time. So again, like part of it is we wanted to, at a base minimum, bear with us. We are a young company.
We just got the come on.
More.
But yeah, no, at a bare minimum, we wanted to make sure that we hit what is, you know, considered, you know, AFCO nutrient profiles for adult cats, for kittens, for dogs, for puppies. And then afterwards, we get to work on some of these more creative diets. For example, like what you're describing here could be like a veterinary diet that we would collaborate with someone on. And because of that, it wouldn't be rated as something that would say like hit AFCO requirements, right? But it would be something that is more of a prescription diet. So it just takes a little bit more thought, but it's definitely, as you have mentioned, like there are a lot of unfortunately, there's a lot of kidney disease and senior cats who do suffer from that condition. So it's something we are very, very aware of.
So we're very grateful that you have launched the Complete Cat. But so custom, we will wait for the custom.
And we will wait for the gently cooked recipes too.
Oh,
You guys gotta pick which one do you want.
you gotta draw the line somewhere. We just so here's another quick question. I know it's one that Jay and I have, and I think we've heard it from a couple other people. So we have multiple babies. We've got 5, and right now your Complete and Balanced
Packaging
comes in 2-pound containers,
Yes.
tubs.
Are you considering making that?
I already know this answer because I watched the live.
Yeah, I think you saw it. Yeah, you know the answer. You're just asking for the audience, which is a good question. But yeah, we are actually working on 1-pound packages. So we basically, the story there is that we have to get a couple pieces of equipment in, and they're kind of on their way. But I mean, like a month or two, I would expect you guys to start.
Let's just say
them.
in a couple of months.
I mean, it's like anything can happen on the kind of like equipment manufacturing side, but no, those plans are in motion.
Yay.
Wow.
And yeah, we hear you guys. We know the 2 pounds is kind of a lot, especially if you have small pets or
one cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One cat, it's like, oh no, what do I do? Can I
Absolutely.
and then freeze?
Yeah, we hear you.
That's what I had to do. I had to go kind of mostly thaw it, but not completely thaw it, and then cut it into sections and refreeze in smaller package. Yeah. So, and then somebody has a suggestion here about making a sampler pack so that people can try. Like
that's a whole new kind of packaging.
You know what the answer is? The answer is you guys need more cats.
You are amazing.
There you go. But no, but honestly, sometimes it's not even the amount of cats that you have, it's the level of pickiness. Or say somebody's like, okay, Viva Raw is like, I know that they're recommended by all the cool people in the world. So we've got to feed our cats this food, but they're currently on a wet food or they're currently on a dry food. And so we're going to have to slowly transition them in little bits and pieces at a time. So the smaller packaging really helps with that transition phase, or the picky cats, like so many of us have, where it's like, okay, I'm going to mix it in with something else first.
I don't know. Mary's here and said, when you have 8 cats, you use 2 pounds a day.
You got to get 8 cats. I don't know if there's another option here. That's just.
I have a suggestion though for you guys that want to do like the little samples, like the small amounts for the transitioning cats or whatever. Kind of mostly thaw the package and put it in an ice cube tray and just pull out one little ice cube at a time.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
That is a really good idea.
You can use like baby food jars too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like muffin tins. Like, so you are like, I definitely recommend kind of after about 24 hours in the fridge is a sweet spot for when it's not like totally defrosted, but it's like soft enough for you to work with in portion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. That is great.
Nancy has come in. Nancy said, I love that there's a new raw food option for my cats. I have 3 questions. Those are incoming shortly.
I will mention too, sorry, going back to the sampler pack question, I definitely hear you guys. So one of the tough things shipping direct to your door is that it's really difficult to keep things frozen and fresh through transit unless we have a certain amount of frozen product in there. So I will share that, like, as sort of an something that we've tried to do to help ease that, is that we do offer a clean bowl guarantee on your first order. So what that means is actually, if for any reason, like literally any reason, your cats don't take to it, maybe they take to, 2 of the proteins, but not the other 3, we refund or replace whatever doesn't work for you. So that definitely out a little bit with that.
Yeah, because we get it.
Yeah, we hear you guys.
It's hard to commit to 10 pounds sometimes.
Very nice. I just got a business idea though. For Super Zoo, for you guys to come to Super Zoo this year. Well, you have 2 months, plenty of time, right? So within the next 2 months, this is what you should do. You should just get the little sample packets, right, of everything. sell them in the stores. So there's a little bit of profit. And then they have to come back and buy directly through you for the larger supply.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know that the independent stores would be super happy about that.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah,
It's
we
a
want
great
to
idea.
support them. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't see Nancy's question. She said, hold on. I think she's still
She's
typing.
working on it.
But I have a random question before we let everyone know where to get this amazing food. And before Nancy comes through with her questions, we're watching, girl. We got you. What in this year-long journey of, well, actually, since you started, what's been like a surprise hiccup you guys just did not see coming?
This is a great question.
Because, when you're talking about packaging and getting new machinery for this or that, we, the consumer, don't understand what it's like to bring a product to market, everything that goes into all of that. So what is not just the formulating, but everything, like you just said about shipping, like the boxes, the packing, the dry ice,
moving from your
little
kitchen
thing.
to a manufacturer, like
right. Like what's a hiccup? What's a hiccup that you guys just didn't see coming on this journey that you remember?
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know if
I
it's the
thought
same
you
one.
were gonna go. Wait, no, you go first.
You can have two.
yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. So a hiccup. Would you describe a hiccup the same as a challenge?
Yes.
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 Unexpected challenge, like, oh,
Yes.
Okay.
Where you had to problem solve.
Yeah, I would say, okay, so one of the things I would say overall has been very, very difficult for us and continues to be, I would say, a challenge / hiccup on a daily basis is our sourcing. So we work, I mean, when we first started, we were working with a lot of family farms around us. So we're located in North Carolina. Everything is manufactured in North Carolina, but we have a warehouse on the West Coast as well to make sure that we cover the entire country. But of course, like when we started, we were working with smaller family farms in North Carolina. And then as we grew, making sure that we grew, with our suppliers, but also having to extend and add on additional suppliers. We have a really high standard for the quality of the farming that we work with. So we require that they're certified humane by like a third party. So a lot of the times, if you've ever heard of like GAP organizations or certified humane, that's super, super, super important to us. And then 2, no antibiotics or hormones ever. So what that also means is that none of these farms are using feedlots because as a result, a lot of these farms, factory farms, are using feedlots, using antibiotics and able to keep their animals, unfortunately, alive until the time that they're, sort of like slaughtered and processed for consumption. Without the use of antibiotics or hormones, they have a lot stricter sort of guidelines around making sure that their environment is very clean, very healthy, giving them really clean food, and making sure they're happy and healthy overall. So expanding on that front, again, we don't have access to the largest farms and meat suppliers in the country. We don't, none of those brands that you see in grocery stores are brands or farms that we can work with. So having to grow, but also maintain a really healthy relationship and consistent supply. There's definitely hiccups along the way where we're really thankful that we have such great partners now to keep things in stock as we sort of support you guys. But there was a time in which things were out of stock for sure. And that's really difficult too, I think, for a lot of people when they're trying to feed, their cats the same food and they're doing so well on it. So that's definitely been a challenge for sure.
Yeah, I can only imagine that would be our hardest challenge.
Yeah.
We just don't have it for you anymore.
Honestly, that is kind of one thing I was initially surprised by is when when we first started, sometimes we get people go oh my gosh, my pet literally can't eat anything else. I need it. It's when we're out of stock or even if there's a carrier delay or something. And I think that was, that was wow, people are really depending on us. It made me proud a little bit, but it also was we really got to make sure we do our absolute best to be there when you guys need us.
That's on the emotional level, right? That's the
absolutely.
And I guess that so Mary's asking, do you guys ever see yourself selling in pet stores, like smaller private
pet stores?
Independent?
Yeah, so we work with like a handful right now. We don't really work through any distributors. We kind of on a ad hoc basis, if somebody reaches out to us, we'll like ship them boxes and things like that. So it's pretty kind of a small operation for us right now, but definitely something we want to experiment with going forward. So if any of you guys listeners are interested, definitely send us an email and we'd be happy to chat.
Yeah.
And your email address?
info@vivarawpets.com.
Yeah, or go on our website, chat.
Okay, so Nancy's got Nancy's come through with a question. She said, I've heard Dr. Karen Becker state that she doesn't believe cats should have a steady source of iodine. Could you speak to the choice of adding organic
Icelandic kelp?
Is it Icelandic?
Organic Icelandic kelp. That's an interesting question. To be completely honest, I don't think that I've seen that video or that article that, Dr. Becker is stating this. We'd be happy to sort of review this. But from our perspective, there is a minimum requirement of iodine from an AFCO standpoint in the feline diet. So in order to be considered a complete and balanced food, we definitely needed to make sure that we hit that. There is a decent amount less kelp added into the feline diets naturally compared to the canine diet already. So that is a difference. But I think one thing that you should know about Viva overall as a company too, and just our philosophy, is that we don't shy away from new research or new information coming out. So by any means, if there's sort of like progress made in this space, and we would love for there to be more information about fresh diets and just raw feeding nutrition, we will be the first to make any sort of changes to our food, and all that information is music to our ears. So
yeah, I will say I heard Dr. Becker talk about that as well, and she was basically talking about how AFCO needs to get their numbers back together because the from her experience at least, and everything that she's seen over so many years in this industry, that cats need a whole lot less iodine than AFCO calls for. So yeah, so that definitely makes sense.
Developing information. Her next question.
I love this question
too. Nancy, I love you. This is great.
You should join us.
All the hardest questions.
But this is a great one. And for anyone that doesn't know who we're about to talk about, I really encourage everyone to bookmark truthaboutpetfood.com. It's such an invaluable resource for all of us. And it is the brainchild and the incredible, amazing, ongoing effort of one Susan Thixton. And she every year puts out a list. So the question from Nancy, a list of pet foods that she would actually feed her own babies.
That is approved.
That is approved. She is a consumer advocate. And the question is, are you planning to certify with Susan Thixton's Truth About Pet Food list for 2024?
Yeah, we are. We're actually on her list for this year.
That's right. I'm like, woo! You're actually right.
Of not being on her list for next year.
As long as Susan emails us, we'll plan to be on her list.
Yeah, and I mean, her like having gone through it as like a manufacturer, as a company, like we will totally vouch for her list too. We basically sent her, all of our sourcing contacts, all of the certificates they send us, like
invoices,
that,
everything.
I mean, a lot of these documents, we had to go and ask our supplier for, and they had it, but she fact checks every label claim we make.
Right,
so
absolutely.
She is exceptionally thorough in her due diligence.
And it's a lot of work, you guys. If you are not, we don't know the type of work it goes into to get certified for Susan's list, because it requires a lot of work on y'all's part to go dig and get all that information from your suppliers and all of that.
And we as consumers don't necessarily know what even to ask for, as far as like what makes this, everybody knows third-party testing is good. Everybody knows organic is good, but you don't necessarily know all of the ins and outs. You could go and do all the work that she's done over the past 30
going to all the AFCO meetings, going to all the
years
sort of thing, buying the $500 books so you can find out how they define it. We love the effort. She really is a consumer advocate. And as you guys went through it, it can seem a little overwhelming, everything that
Mm-hmm.
she asks for. At the same time, it's why I think so many of us consumers
Trust
put
it.
so much trust
Absolutely.
in her list. And I just want to say hats off to you both being
For making
a new
that
company
list.
Yeah.
and doing it right from the start. I
Yep.
mean, it really is what an accomplishment.
That
What
is.
an
Thank you so much. Yes. We're excited to work with Susan again this year for sure. And stay posted on that.
Yay.
Right. And I think that kind of the last question, Nancy's, I think that kind of, if you made it to Susan Thixton's list, do you have independent nutritional analysis profiles available for each one of your proteins?
Yes, we do. So all you need to do is just go to our website, and there's going to be 2 tabs on each of the product pages. One is about the ingredients and one is about the nutrition. So if you click the nutrition tab, there's a little blurb on guaranteed analysis, but there's also a link that links to a PDF about the detailed nutritional analysis for every single protein. So
Yeah.
That's
Beautiful.
awesome.
Beautiful. You
Thought
can
of everything.
That is such a hard question for most pet food companies. That's what I'm saying. That is a really hard question that most people would be like,
Oh, we'll have to
so
talk
we
about
have
whatever
them, and
department.
you can
Just
email us,
here.
and we might be able to say, like, or blubber around and be like, this is proprietary information.
yeah, absolutely.
As they, as they
No,
all-
yeah. I mean, for us, it's like the first thing that we have when we even like start working on the recipe, right? So it's absolutely like something that we want to share with you guys.
It's definitely a good question to ask because, after us having like formulated foods and things like that, like there are definitely companies out there who label their food as complete and balanced, but like likely aren't, right? Like at our point, we kind of can look at an ingredient list and be like 80% chance not balanced, but you can always ask. So I think this is absolutely like a great question for anyone who's trying a new food to just make sure that the numbers match up and things like that. Because raw feeding is so new, there's a lot of companies out there, even they may have the best of intentions, but just haven't gotten all the knowledge, who are like, this seems like it could be balanced and label it as such. So that's definitely something really good to be aware of.
Yeah. Christina said, I'm in Texas. How much should I order to be able to get this all frozen from North Carolina?
You
Now,
were
so I
saying
guess
that-
the question is what's the minimum and what's the maximum that you would suggest ordering?
That will remain because you were saying too that there has to be a
So
Yeah.
our order minimum is just 10 pounds. And what we do on our end is we do monitor the weather in different areas.
Yeah.
We're very attuned with the weather now. So if Texas gets very hot, so what we'll do, especially in the summer, is just add extra dry ice in there and things like that.
There's actually an automatic system. So there's literally an algorithm built out to add dry ice to your order,
Oh, I love
depending
that.
on literally the heat index of your city. So it's pretty snazzy. But if you live in Texas, it's likely that you're going to be getting a lot of dry ice on your orders. And we're specifically adding dry ice to make sure everything always arrives to you frozen. So any amount of food you should be ordering would arrive frozen.
Yeah.
And I can attest because I live in Texas. I live in Central Texas, and my food got here and it was frozen, y'all. It was frozen.
Right.
Yep. And we live on the West Coast. Where on the West Coast do you guys have?
We have another warehouse in California. So we
It's in
ship everyone in no more than 3 days.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, before I'm getting to Sally's question real quick, I just want to say everything that you guys just mentioned about being able to answer those tough questions. For everyone watching this, I just want you to know how well you guys just answered this. And this is how comfortable we should feel asking any manufacturer or whoever is making products when we want to know what we're putting in our cats. We should feel comfortable asking these questions, and we should be able to get this clear, kind of transparent results. I just think that you guys are an absolute. So thank you for that. Sally said I bought the Viva Raw before it was the Complete for Cats. Trying to transition kittens can be crazy. They all had diarrhea with blood. It seems like too much too soon. Any tips and tricks? So kittens can be.
So there was the pure.
Right. And I think, and I'll let you guys weigh in real quick, but I'm just saying from our experience, kittens are it's so exciting to transition kittens to raw because they're so eager. And depending on how your kittens came to you, I know that we had different experiences kind of with our Madison and Jack versus our Friday and Zorro, where sometimes kittens go through a lot before they come to us, whether it's
shelter or anxiety or
the shelter environment,
nutritional deficiencies and
So I would say it might have been a little too much too soon, but definitely whatever their main diet was, to do a slower transition and just see how they go. You're awesome for watching the poops, because that's kind of how we gauge as well how a new food is going, because most of the time it's beautiful magic, and you know how I love my cat.
She's cat shit crazy.
I'm cat shit crazy.
And there's something I can add to that too, is anytime you transition a cat from one type of food to another, you are changing their gut flora. You're changing their microbes in their gut. And so there might be a few days where there is a little loose stools or diarrhea or whatever. It should work itself out on its own, but you could back off and just, go really slower in those cases. If you have some kind of irregular stool problem or diarrhea, things like that, you're just transitioning their microbiome to something that it hasn't had yet. So you give yourself a little grace and a little more time.
Yeah, and I would say, I know that poop or blood in the poop can be very scary. So I think that when you do see that, pay attention to kind of what, if you're seeing bright red blood, it's usually something at the tail end.
Right.
And that's when I really watch the next
Not
poop.
internal, external.
If their poops are super black, that's when I'm a little more concerned. Bring that stool sample in, or bring those little ones in.
Right.
There could be something completely else, something else going on.
Yeah.
Did you guys have something?
No, I think, yeah, absolutely. Slowing it down, transitioning, taking it slow, I think would be absolutely the way to go.
Yeah, and I mean, one other helpful tip is even just like gently cooking it a little. Sometimes that's a little easier for their GI, and then you can slowly transition that to more and more raw as well.
Oh, we're getting way behind the comments. Okay, we got time for just
you got to answer them faster.
this one, Christina said she reached out to you guys, and we're told the oysters and mussels is not raw in the food. I read that raw oysters have a toxin for cats. Can you touch on this topic? I've never heard this before.
I did. I heard it in the last live.
Oh.
Yeah. So, the thing with oysters and shellfish in general is like, because they're filter feeders, like there is a potential for them to like take in what's in the environment and store that in their bodies. So, well, first of all, like we do like every ingredient we get, especially our supplements, we get like a certificate of analysis from our supplier that they test for these heavy metals. So they're always, like we make sure there's not any in there. And then the other thing I've seen about oysters is, especially raw oysters, is there's an enzyme in there called thiaminase that breaks down thiamine, and heat inactivates that. So our oysters that we use are dehydrated, so that enzyme is not active in that ingredient either. Well, let me know if you have a specific other like risk you had in mind about the oysters.
But you said but they're not cooked.
They are cooked. So all of our oyster powder, as well as like mussel powder, is basically dehydrated and then powdered very finely. Yes. So as a result, it is cooked.
A couple other comments. I just wanted to read Terry. She said that the American Grass Fed Association is a wonderful certifier of farms/ranches who manage their livestock in a humane way and are purely grass-fed, organic, non-antibiotic. Thank you, Terry, for that information.
That's good information for all of us.
That is good information for all of us. Floppy Cat said also, hey, Floppy Cats, if someone has a problem transitioning, hook them up with Pam. She transitioned my 13-year-old raw in 2 weeks.
We did it. Yeah.
Okay, we are quickly running out of time. I could talk to you guys all day. I'm really, it's an honor to have you guys here and to share all this information with us transparently. And
we're just all so grateful that you guys have come out with a cat food, that you guys put the work in, even if it took a year, you continue to put the work in to be able to serve the cat community, which it's just beautiful. I mean, there's so few, as Pam said, companies that make anything with cats in mind in the pet health world. So we're so grateful that you guys put in that effort and have such an amazing product. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And can I also say thank you for making your shipping so affordable, guys? I'm not going to say the brand I was buying. It was ridiculous to ship. So I am so grateful that your shipping fees what was it, $10, $20 at the very most. I mean, $10. Yes, I'm like, sign me up. Sign me up.
We also do offer free shipping too.
Yay!
Over $250. So it
That's
is a
great.
lot of food, but if you find that
You have a big freezer.
amazing on our food, you can always stock up.
Yep.
Say like on a month or two's worth, and you will get free shipping for that. So that's
amazing.
Okay, so
That's
we're
awesome.
quickly running out of time, but for everyone who is flocking to your website, or do we have a link?
Link is in the description. If you guys want to check out their cat food line, please do. They, like I said, our cats absolutely loved it, and we're sold. We're sold.
We are sold. Any clothing?
Any clothing?
No, yeah, we're super excited to see how all your cats do on it. If you guys try it out, let us know. Send us some videos or pictures. We love those.
And you can tell we also love questions. So if you have anything else that wasn't answered during this live, feel free to just reach out to us via email, chat, text. Honestly, you can message us from any platform and we'll respond. But we'd love to chat and help you get to know a little bit more about sort of what we're about at Viva. So.
Awesome. And do you guys sleep?
No, that one we don't do. But
what do you mean sleep? No, we can't sleep. Sissy, thank you so much. You just dropped, I think, the info at vivarawpets.com is their email to reach out. Thank you guys for your effort. Thank you for making such an amazing product for our babies.
Yes.
Thank you for your honesty. Do we have any closing thoughts? Anything on the top of anyone's mind that we didn't touch on?
Pam?
No,
This is so exciting.
I think
we're honestly just so excited to hear.
As far as like furry clothing thoughts, anything?
Furry clothing?
Furry clothing thoughts. Next time we'll have to wear something.
Next time we'll have some merch and apparel.
Okay, we'll have to do this again sometime soon. Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
for having
Absolutely.
us.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Love you guys.